Hi everybody, tonight I'm going to teach you a no bulk, no binding finish technique. I prefer when I am doing a small placemat, table runner, wall hanging, maybe I don't want binding. And for me, sometimes binding is always what seems to get me to procrastinate, and it's, they sit around waiting for binding to be put on. So I usually do a stitch and flip. However, with the stitch and flip, I'm not a real big fan of finishing that edge, because inevitably you go to finish that edge and it's not as straight as the rest of your quilt, and it's pretty obvious that you can tell where you flipped right side out. It's also very bulky. There's a definite lip to your edge of your project. So if this was a coaster or a table runner, if you set a glass down here, it's gonna rock. So this is going to be a way to get rid of this bulk around this edge and get a much nicer finish. What we're gonna do is, the first thing we need to do is prepare our backing fabric. We're gonna cut our backing 2 inches longer than the length of our project, and the width is going to be the same. So if my project is 14.5 inches long and 10 inches wide, I need a piece of backing fabric that is 16.5 inches long and 10 inches wide. And then when I have that, I'm going to fold it in half along the length, and I'm going to cut it in half. So I'll end up with 2 pieces that are 8.25 by 10. Okay? Once you have those 2 pieces, you're going to take them. You're going to place them right sides together. We're going to sew a 1-inch seam down one of the edges, the cut edge. You want to leave a hole towards the middle open. This size opening is going to depend upon how big the project is. If it's a smaller project, you may not need quite a big hole, that type of thing. But, usually 4 to 5 inches is going to be plenty to be able to slowly turn, because what happens is once you sew that, we're going to press this open. We're now going to be turning the project right side out through the middle of the back versus along the outside edge. So that's going to solve one problem that we have with the stitch and flip method. We're going to be able to get nice straight edges all the way around the edge of the project. Once you have your backing made, we're going to trim our backing and batting the same size as our project top. So again, if our project top is 14.5 by 10, we're going to take our backing and batting, we're going to layer them, and we're going to trim them to be 14.5 by 10. Now you can take your project, you can lay it on top and trim around it. That way it's exactly the same size. Excuse me. Once you've got your backing and batting, you're going to then remove the batting, and we want to trim approximately a little bit more than 1/4 inch off all 4 sides. Now, it's much easier if you just trim 5/8 off 2 edges versus going all the way around all 4 sides of that batting, if that makes sense. So I would just take my ruler and trim 5/8 off here and 5/8 off here. And that way, what's going to happen is we will place it wrong sides to our backing fabric, wrong side to the back of our quilt top, and we're going to kind of center it so that it's about 1/4 inch in from all the edges. We're going to need to secure this in place, and we secure this in place by using batting tape. Batting tape is a lightweight, non-woven fusible on one side. This is very, very similar to Pellon 906F that we use for t-shirt quilts and things along that lines. This particular one is just cut nicely into the width that I need, but it's perfect for scraps as well. We're going to take and we're going to apply a piece of batting tape to the edge of each edge of the batting. Okay, right at the edge of the quilt, raw edge of the project top, and then we're going to be just taking your iron and lightly running it along the edge to secure this in place. So what this is going to allow is for your batting to not move. So this will keep everything nice and in place, because what we would then do is you're going to take your backing piece, we would put it right sides together, and we would sew 1/4 inch all the way around. Now, once we sew that 1/4 inch all the way around, let me get this one turned wrong side out so that you can see here. You have, it's pretty much, that seam is pretty much right next to the batting. So now we don't have any batting caught in our seam allowance. We're going to turn it right side out through that hole that we left in the middle of the project, in the middle of our back. Poke all your corners out, nice and tidy. You now have a nice edge that you can hand whip stitch, ladder stitch shut right along the back edge. You don't want to hand sew. You could slide in some steam-a-seam tape or double-sided fusible tape, a little bit of glue. You could glue it shut. And then you will get a nice press around the outside. It's hard to feel and hard to see, but this is so flat around the edge compared to what you get here, okay? So you may be able to see kind of and tell maybe a little bit by the thickness here versus the thickness here. And then you have this nice flat edge around the project. So that is your quick little no binding, no bulk finish. So now you can finish all those table runners and wall hangings and coasters and mug rugs that you've been waiting to do. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments, whether you're watching here on Facebook or on YouTube, or send us an email at materialgirl@verizon.net. Thank you and have a great evening.